The sun hasn't risen yet, but you're already awake. Not because of an alarm clock or anxiety about work or any of the 1,000 modern reasons we lose sleep. You're awake because your body knows, deep in its bones, that the predators are most active in the darkness just before dawn. This is when the saber-toothed cats hunt. This is when the cave bears prowl. This is when staying alert means staying alive. You are a human living 40,000 years ago, and your day is about to begin in ways that would seem both utterly foreign and strangely familiar to your descendants reading this story today. You're lying on a bed of dried grass and animal furs in a shallow cave that your band has called home for the past 3 moons. Around you, 27 other humans are beginning to stir. Your mate beside you, your 3 children curled between you like puppies seeking warmth. Your sister and her family just beyond them. The old woman who remembers stories from before your grandmother was born. The young hunter who joined your group last summer after his own band was decimated by disease. All of you pressed together for warmth and safety, breathing in rhythm, heartbeats synchronized by proximity and kinship. If you're using these to fall asleep, that's literally why I make them. So subscribe maybe and tell me where you are and what time it is. I check the comments and it's fascinating. People in Singapore at sunset, Seattle at midnight, Stockholm at sunrise, all drifting off to the same stories about our shared past. The first thing you do, before even opening your eyes fully, is listen. You've survived 28 winters, which makes you one of the older members of your band, and you've survived by being careful. You listen for the breathing patterns of everyone around you, all present, all normal. You listen for sounds from outside the cave. The chirping of dawn birds means no large predators nearby. The absence of chirping would mean danger. This morning, the birds sing. Good. You can relax slightly. Your hand moves automatically to the small leather pouch tied around your neck. Inside are 3 objects that never leave your body. A perfectly round river stone that your mother gave you before she died. A wolf tooth from your first successful hunt. A shell from a beach 7 days walk away, traded from another band in exchange for high-quality flint that your region is known for. These aren't just keepsakes. They're power objects, connections to forces and memories that help you navigate a world where every day brings new challenges and ancient dangers. Now you sit up carefully, trying not to wake the children. The cold hits you immediately. Even with the windbreak your band built across the cave entrance, even with the banked fires that smoldered through the night, even with all the body heat of nearly 30 humans and 4 dogs packed together. The Ice Age cold penetrates everything. Your breath mists in the dim light. Your joints ache. Every movement requires overcoming the stiffness that settled into your bones during the night. You reach for the water bag made from a deer's bladder that hangs from a wooden peg, driven into a crack in the cave wall. The water is so cold it makes your teeth hurt, but you drink deeply. Hydration is life. Your people have learned through countless generations that starting the day with water helps prevent the headaches that come from working hard in cold, dry air. You don't know the science behind it, but you know what works. The fire needs attention. This is always the first real task of the day. Fire is everything. Fire is warmth, light, protection, cooking, toolmaking, social gathering, ceremonial power. Letting the fire die completely would be a catastrophe that could endanger the entire band. So you carefully add dried grass to the glowing embers, then small twigs, then larger sticks, breathing gently to encourage the flames without scattering the precious coals. The smoke stings your eyes, but you've been doing this since you were 6 winters old. You know exactly how much to blow, how much fuel to add, how to build the fire up without wasting wood that took hours to gather. As the fire grows, others begin to wake. Your eldest daughter, 11 winters old and nearly ready to be considered an adult, immediately begins helping with the morning tasks. She knows without being told what needs doing. Check the water supplies. Examine the meat hanging to dry to make sure no insects or small animals got to it during the night. Sort through the plant foods gathered yesterday to remove anything that's starting to spoil. Count the stone tools to ensure none are missing. These aren't chores assigned by parents to reluctant children. These are survival tasks that everyone understands are necessary. Your mate is awake now, stretching muscles that will soon be tested by a day of intense physical activity. In your band, there's no strict division between men's work and women's work the way later agricultural societies would develop. Everyone does what they're best at, what their body allows, what the band needs at that moment. Your mate is one of the best trackers in the group, able to read the story of an animal's passage in marks so subtle others miss them entirely. Today, your mate will likely join the hunting party that's been planning to pursue a small herd of reindeer spotted yesterday near the river valley. But first, breakfast. This isn't a casual meal grabbed on the way out the door. This is crucial calorie loading for people who will burn more energy in a single day than most modern humans burn in a week. The menu depends on what's available, and late autumn means variety. There's dried meat from a horse killed 2 weeks ago, tough and chewy but packed with protein and fat. There are hazelnuts gathered from the grove a half-day's walk north, cracked open with smooth river stones that have been used for this purpose so long they have perfect nut-sized depressions worn into them. There are roots from cattails growing in the marshy area near the river, bitter when raw but sweet and starchy when roasted in the coals. There are dried berries from the summer harvest, their sweetness concentrated by months of careful storage in birch bark containers. Everyone eats with focused intensity. This isn't social dining. This is fuel consumption. An adult human living this lifestyle needs between 3,000 and 5,000 calories per day, just to maintain body weight. During particularly intense periods, like long hunts or seasonal migrations, that number can climb even higher. Your people have developed an intuitive understanding of nutrition that would impress modern dietitians. They know that eating only lean meat leads to weakness and illness, what later scientists would identify as protein poisoning. They know that certain plants provide long-lasting energy while others give quick bursts. They know that organ meats, especially liver, prevent certain sicknesses that come from eating only muscle meat. As you eat, the band naturally divides into working groups for the day. This happens without formal planning or assigned leadership. Everyone knows what needs doing and who's best suited for each task. It's an organic process refined over thousands of generations. The hunting party begins preparing. 6 adults, both male and female, who have proven themselves skilled at the complex art of pursuit hunting. They check their spears, ensuring the hafting that holds stone points to wooden shafts is still tight. They examine their Atlatls, the spear-throwing devices that effectively extend the length of their arms and multiply the force they can generate. A spear thrown by hand might travel 30 meters. With an Atlatl, that range doubles or even triples. The preparation is meticulous. Each hunter carries a basic kit that would seem impossibly minimal by modern standards, but represents sophisticated technology for the time. A primary spear with a carefully knapped stone point that took hours to create. A backup spear with a fire-hardened wooden point. An atlatl carved from antler or wood, balanced perfectly for their individual throwing style. A cutting tool hafted to a wooden handle for field butchering. A leather pouch containing spare sinew for emergency repairs. A few pieces of dried meat for energy, and tinder for making fire if they need to spend the night away from camp. They also prepare psychologically. Hunting large game isn't just physically dangerous, it's mentally and emotionally complex. These aren't modern sport hunters pursuing a hobby. These are people who understand themselves as part of the same natural system as their prey. They know individual animals in the local herds, have watched them for years, know their habits and personalities. Killing them involves a kind of spiritual negotiation that modern people might struggle to understand. The hunters paint their faces with ochre and charcoal in patterns that have been used since the ancestors' time. They speak quietly to the spirits of the animals they hope to kill, explaining their need, promising to use every part of the body, asking for understanding. While the hunting party prepares, another group is organizing for gathering. This isn't the simple berry picking that the word might suggest. This is sophisticated botanical work requiring encyclopedic knowledge of local plants, their growth cycles, their nutritional values, their medicinal properties, and their dangers. The gathering party today will be searching for specific resources needed before winter fully arrives. Pine nuts from cones that are just now reaching perfect ripeness. Late mushrooms that fruit after the first frost. The inner bark of certain trees that can be processed into a nutrient-rich flour. Medicinal plants that need to be collected before they go completely dormant. The elderly woman who leads the gathering party carries in her mind a map of the territory that extends for days in every direction. She knows where the best hazelnut groves are, which south-facing slopes have the medicine plants, where the edible roots grow thickest. This knowledge has been accumulated over 60 winters of observation and passed down from her own grandmothers. She can tell from subtle changes in leaf color which plants are at peak nutrition. She knows from the behavior of birds where the best seed heads are ripening. She reads the landscape like a modern person might read a familiar book. The gatherers also carry sophisticated equipment. Digging sticks with points hardened in fire for extracting roots. Woven baskets waterproofed with pine pitch for carrying berries without crushing them. Leather bags for nuts and seeds. Sharp flint flakes for cutting fibrous plants. Each tool represents generations of refinement. The baskets alone require knowledge of which plants provide the best fibers, when to harvest them, how to process them, how to weave them into containers that are both light and strong. A third group remains at the cave to handle maintenance and manufacturing tasks. This work is just as crucial as hunting and gathering. Tools need constant maintenance and replacement. A stone knife might last weeks or months with careful use, but eventually it needs to be resharpened so many times that it becomes too small to be useful. Spear points break, handles crack, leather clothing tears, baskets wear out. Someone needs to be constantly making and repairing things just to keep the band functional. Today, the toolmakers are working on a special project. Winter is coming, and everyone needs warmer clothing. They're processing the hide from the horse killed 2 weeks ago, a complex procedure that will take days to complete. First, any remaining flesh and fat must be scraped from the hide using specialized scrapers made from flint or bone. Then, the hide needs to be treated with a mixture of brain matter and liver, worked into the skin to break down the tough collagen fibers and make the leather soft and pliable. This process, called brain tanning, requires specific knowledge about the chemistry of different organs, though your people think of it in terms of spiritual transformation rather than molecular biology. The hide must be worked constantly while it dries, stretched and pulled, and twisted to prevent it from becoming stiff. This is exhausting work that makes your arms and back ache. But the result, soft, supple leather that can keep you warm and dry through an Ice Age winter, is worth every moment of effort. The same hide that starts as a bloody stiff sheet will become clothing so comfortable you can sleep in it, so durable it will last years with proper care. While some work the hides, others are knapping stone tools. This is precision work requiring years of practice to master. You're working with a piece of high-quality flint traded from a band whose territory includes an excellent quarry. The stone is worth the 3 days of travel it took to trade for it. Good flint breaks predictably, creating edges sharper than modern surgical steel. But it requires understanding exactly where to strike, at what angle, with how much force. You watch as one of your band's best knappers works. He studies the stone from every angle, looking for natural fracture planes. He selects his hammerstone, a rounded piece of harder rock used for initial shaping. The first strikes remove large flakes to create the basic shape. Then he switches to an antler hammer for more precise work. The antler is softer than stone, allowing for more controlled fractures. Each strike is calculated. One wrong hit could ruin hours of work. The children watch intently. This is their education. There are no schools, no formal lessons, no curriculum. Children learn by observing and gradually participating. A 4-year-old might be given a piece of poor-quality stone to practice on. A 7-year-old might be allowed to help with the initial rough shaping. By adolescence, most can create basic tools. By adulthood, some will have developed into master craftspeople whose work is sought after by other bands. The process isn't just technical, it's social. The napper tells stories while working. Stories about the ancestor who discovered this particular technique. Stories about famous hunts where exceptional spear points made the difference between success and failure. Stories that encode technical information in memorable narratives. These stories serve multiple purposes: entertainment, education, cultural transmission, social bonding. A story about a hunter whose poorly made spear point broke at a crucial moment teaches the importance of quality craftsmanship. A story about a woman who discovered a new type of useful stone while gathering teaches observation skills. By mid-morning, the various working parties have departed or settled into their tasks. The hunters left at first light, moving silently through the forest toward where the reindeer were last seen. The gatherers headed toward the pine groves on the eastern slopes. The cave feels different with fewer people, quieter but also more vulnerable. Those who remain stay alert, always listening for unusual sounds, always watching the dogs for signs they've detected something concerning. The dogs are crucial members of the band. They're not quite the domesticated companions that modern humans know. These are recently domesticated wolves, maybe only a few dozen generations removed from their wild ancestors. They maintain many wolf behaviors but have developed a unique relationship with humans. They help with hunting, their superior noses detecting prey long before human senses could. They serve as early warning systems, alerting to approaching predators or strangers. They help keep children warm at night. In desperate times, they can even serve as emergency food, though this is avoided whenever possible because their value alive far exceeds their value as meat. The relationship between your people and these proto-dogs represents one of the most important developments in human history. It's a partnership that benefits both species. The dogs get reliable food and protection from larger predators. The humans get hunting assistance and security. Over thousands of years, this partnership will reshape both species. The wolves will become dogs, diverse in form and specialized in function. The humans will become dependent on their canine companions in ways they can't yet imagine. As the morning progresses into afternoon, the rhythm of work continues. Two women are processing plant fibers into cordage, the Ice Age equivalent of rope and string. This is another technology so fundamental that modern people rarely think about it. But without cordage, most of human technology becomes impossible. You can't haft a spear point without something to bind it to the shaft. You can't make clothing without thread. You can't create traps or fishing nets or carry heavy loads. The process starts with finding the right plants. Nettles, despite their sting, provide excellent fibers. The inner bark of certain trees works well. Some grasses, when processed correctly, yield strong threads. The plants are harvested, then retted, soaked in water to separate the fibers from the rest of the plant material. This can take days or weeks depending on the plant and the temperature. Then the fibers are cleaned, dried, and twisted together to create cordage of various thicknesses. The women work with practiced efficiency, their fingers moving in patterns learned in childhood. They can produce several meters of good cordage in a day, their hands twisting and rolling the fibers while they talk. They discuss the hunting party's chances of success. They share concerns about the coming winter, whether the band has enough stored food, whether the cave will stay warm enough, whether the spring will come early or late. They tell stories, the same stories their grandmothers told, stories that stretch back into the time before memory. One story tells of the Great Journey, how the ancestors came from a land far to the south where the sun was stronger and the ice never came. How they followed the herds north, learning new ways to survive, discovering that wearing the skins of animals kept them warm, that certain stones made better tools than others, that fire could be carried from place to place in containers filled with slowly burning fungus. These stories aren't just entertainment. They're the collective memory of the band, encoding crucial survival information in narrative form. Nearby, an adolescent boy is learning to make a spear thrower, an Atlatl, under the guidance of his uncle. The Atlatl is a sophisticated piece of engineering that modern people often underestimate. It's not just a stick with a hook on the end. The proportions must be exact. The balance must be perfect. The flex of the wood must match the weight of the spears it will throw. Too stiff and the spear won't launch properly. Too flexible and energy is wasted. The uncle has been making atlatls for 20 winters. He knows which trees provide the best wood, how to shape it with stone tools and fire, how to create the perfect socket that will hold the spear's base during the throw. The boy watches every movement, asks questions, tries to understand not just the how, but the why. Why this wood and not that one? Why this length and not longer? Why carve these grooves along the shaft? The uncle explains patiently. This wood flexes just right. This length matches your arm for maximum leverage. These grooves reduce weight without sacrificing strength. The boy is learning physics without equations, engineering without diagrams, ballistics without mathematics. He's learning through observation, trial and error, and the accumulated wisdom of countless generations. A young mother sits nursing her infant while using her free hand to scrape flesh from a rabbit skin. She's multitasking in ways that would be familiar to any modern parent, balancing the immediate needs of childcare with the endless work of survival. Her baby is wrapped in soft leather and furs, bound to her body in a carrier that lets her work while keeping the infant warm and fed. She talks to the baby constantly, a stream of observations and endearments that help the child learn language and social patterns. This early childhood experience is radically different from modern life, but produces children who are remarkably capable. By age 3, most children in your band can identify dozens of edible plants. By 5, they can start and maintain a fire. By 7, they're contributing meaningfully to food procurement. By adolescence, they have most of the skills needed for independent survival. This isn't harsh or premature. It's necessary. In a world where death can come suddenly, children need to be prepared to survive without their parents. The afternoon sun is getting lower, and those who remained at the cave begin preparing for the returning parties. Fresh water is collected from the spring that emerges from the rocks a short walk from the cave. Firewood is gathered and stacked. The fire is built up to provide warmth and light for the evening activities. Sleeping areas are refreshed with new dried grass. The constant maintenance of daily life continues. Then a sound from outside. The dogs perk up, alert but not alarmed. Footsteps, human footsteps, approaching from the east. The gathering party is returning. They enter the cave area tired but satisfied, their baskets and bags full. The expedition has been successful. They found a grove of pine trees heavy with cones, enough to provide pine nuts for weeks if properly stored. They discovered a new patch of the medicinal plant used to treat winter coughs. They gathered several types of mushrooms that will add variety to the evening meal. But the real prize is something unexpected. While digging for roots near a stream bank, one of the gatherers discovered a deposit of high-quality ochre, the iron-rich clay that your people use for everything from paint to medicine to food preservation. Ochre is valuable enough to be worth trading with other bands. This discovery might mean the difference between a comfortable winter and a desperate one. With ochre to trade, your band can acquire better flint, warmer furs, dried foods from bands in more productive territories. The gatherers share their knowledge while they unload. The pine grove is producing more than expected, worth another trip before the snows come. The mushrooms are abundant this year, probably because of the wet summer. The root vegetables are smaller than usual, suggesting the soil is becoming depleted and the band might need to adjust gathering patterns next year. This information is crucial for planning. In a world without writing, without maps, without any form of external memory storage, everything must be remembered and shared verbally. As evening approaches, there's still no sign of the hunting party. This isn't unusual. Persistence hunting, the technique your people use for large game, can take days. The basic strategy is simple in concept, but exhausting in practice. Humans can't outrun a deer or a horse in a sprint, but humans can outlast them over long distances. Your people can track an animal for hours, keeping it moving, never letting it rest long enough to fully recover. Eventually, the animal becomes exhausted and can be approached close enough for a spear throw. This technique requires incredible endurance and tracking skill. The hunters must be able to follow an animal's trail across varied terrain. They must understand animal behavior well enough to predict where a fleeing animal will go. They must pace themselves perfectly, maintaining pressure on the prey without exhausting themselves. And they must work as a coordinated team, some tracking, some running ahead to cut off escape routes, some hanging back as reserves. While waiting for the hunters, the band prepares the evening meal with what's available. The freshly gathered mushrooms are added to a stew made from dried meat and roots. Pine nuts are roasted in the fire. Cattail roots are wrapped in wet leaves and placed in the coals to steam. It's not elaborate cuisine, but it's nutritious and satisfying. The combination of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates will provide sustained energy through the cold night ahead. As darkness falls, the social aspect of band life becomes more prominent. With most of the day's work done and visibility limited to the circle of firelight, people gather close. This is when the real cultural life of your people unfolds. Stories are told, not just educational ones, but entertainment. Jokes, many of them crude by modern standards, that have been making people laugh for generations. Gossip about other bands, who's partnered with whom, which groups are feuding, where the best hunting has been this season. Music plays a crucial role in evening life. Someone produces a flute made from a bird's hollow wing bone, its finger holes carefully placed to produce a pentatonic scale. The melodies are simple but haunting, echoing off the cave walls. Others join in with percussion, rocks clicked together, sticks beaten on hollow logs, hands clapped in complex rhythms. Some sing, wordless melodies that seem to capture emotions too complex for language. This isn't just entertainment. Music serves to bond the group, synchronize breathing and heartbeats, create shared emotional experiences that strengthen social cohesion. Dancing often accompanies the music. Not formal, choreographed dancing, but spontaneous movement inspired by rhythm and firelight. Children spin until they're dizzy. Adolescents show off, trying to impress potential partners. Adults move with less energy but more grace, their bodies remembering decades of similar evenings. The dancing serves multiple purposes. It's exercise that helps maintain flexibility and cardiovascular health. It's social bonding that strengthens relationships. It's courtship display that helps individuals assess potential mates. It's also practice for the coordinated movement required in hunting and warfare. The old woman who leads the gathering parties begins telling a story, one of the long sagas that can take multiple evenings to complete. This one is about the first humans, how they learned to use fire, how they discovered which plants were safe to eat, how they learned to speak and sing and dream. The story is full of supernatural elements, gods and spirits and magical transformations. But encoded within the fantasy are real survival lessons. The hero who ignores the advice of elders dies from eating poisonous berries. The villain who refuses to share food with others is abandoned when injured. The wise woman who remembers the old ways saves everyone during a crisis. Children listen with rapt attention, absorbing not just the narrative but the values, the worldview, the accumulated wisdom of their culture. They learn that cooperation is more important than competition, that knowledge should be shared, not hoarded, that the natural world is full of powers and mysteries that must be respected, that the ancestors are always watching, judging whether their descendants are living properly. As the evening progresses, people begin preparing for sleep. But first, there are evening rituals to observe. The fire must be banked properly to last through the night. The cave entrance must be checked to ensure the windbreak is secure. The dogs must be positioned where they can best detect approaching danger. Tools and weapons are placed where they can be grabbed quickly in an emergency. These aren't paranoid preparations. They're sensible precautions in a world where a cave bear or saber-toothed cat could appear at any moment. The night doesn't mean sleep comes immediately. There's a complex social choreography that happens as 28 people arrange themselves in a small space. Families cluster together, but not randomly. The positioning reflects subtle hierarchies, alliances, and practical considerations. The elderly woman who knows all the plant lore sleeps near the cave entrance despite the cold, because her hearing is still sharp and she wakes easily. The strongest hunters sleep deeper in the cave, where they can rest more soundly, needing to recover from their physical exertions. Mothers with infants position themselves where they can tend to their babies without waking everyone else. Your place in this arrangement has been earned over years, close enough to the fire to benefit from its warmth, but not so close that you're responsible for tending it all night. Near your extended family, but with enough space that your movements won't disturb them. It's a privilege of being an experienced adult, neither so young that you're pushed to the margins, nor so old that you need special consideration. As bodies settle into familiar positions, conversations continue in whispers. Two young adults who've been making eyes at each other all day manage to position themselves side by side, their quiet flirtation hidden by darkness but obvious to anyone paying attention. Your sister discusses tomorrow's plans with her mate, whether to join another gathering expedition or stay to work on winter clothing. Someone's stomach rumbles loudly, causing suppressed laughter. These are the sounds of your world, as familiar as your own breathing. But then, cutting through the comfortable noise, comes a sound that makes everyone freeze. A long, low howl from somewhere in the valley below. Not a wolf, the dogs would respond to wolves. This is something else. Another howl answers from a different direction. Cave hyenas. The massive Ice Age hyenas that compete with humans for caves, that can crack bones with their jaws that even saber-toothed cats avoid when possible. The pack is hunting tonight. Nobody moves. Nobody speaks. The dogs growl low in their throats but know better than to bark. Everyone listens, tracking the sounds, judging distance and direction. The howls move across the valley, heading north, away from your cave. Gradually, muscle by muscle, the band relaxes. Not tonight. The danger passes. But the reminder is clear. You're not alone in this landscape. You're not even apex predators. You're clever apes who've learned to use tools and fire to carve out a niche in a world full of things that can kill you. Sleep, when it finally comes, is different from modern sleep. You don't lie down at a set time and expect 8 uninterrupted hours. Sleep comes in phases, broken by the need to tend the fire, by babies crying, by changes in the weather, by sounds that might signal danger. You doze for a few hours, wake to add wood to the fire, listen to the night sounds, doze again. Some nights you barely sleep at all. Other nights you might sleep for 12 hours straight, your body recovering from days of intense activity. Dreams come, vivid and meaningful in ways that modern people might struggle to understand. You dream of animals you've hunted, seeing through their eyes, feeling their fear and exhaustion. You dream of plants teaching you their secrets, showing you where to find them, how to use them. You dream of ancestors who died before you were born, but whom you know from stories. They give advice, warnings, encouragement. These aren't dismissed as meaningless neural static. Dreams are important. They're messages from the spirit world, glimpses of the future, communications from the forces that control life and death. You wake in the middle of the night to the sound of your youngest child whimpering. Not crying, just the soft distress of a bad dream or a full bladder. You guide them to the designated relief area, a small alcove where waste can be covered with ash and dirt. Sanitation isn't sophisticated, but it exists. Your people understand that human waste near living spaces brings disease. They don't know about bacteria or parasites, but they know the pattern. Groups that are careless about waste placement get sick more often. On the way back to the sleeping area, you pause to look out of the cave entrance. The moon is full, turning the landscape silver and black. You can see for miles, the river gleaming like a snake made of light. The forest's dark masses punctuated by clearings. Somewhere out there, the hunting party is sleeping. You wonder if they've made a kill, if they're safe, if they'll return tomorrow. The night is clear and cold, your breath visible in the moonlight. The stars are brilliant in a way that modern humans rarely see. The Milky Way, a bright river across the sky. Your people have names for the star patterns, stories about how they came to be. That cluster is the Great Hunt, commemorating an ancestor who chased a magic deer into the sky. That line of stars is the River of Souls, where the dead travel to reach the other world. The morning star is the first woman, who stole fire from the sun and gave it to humans. These stories encode navigation information, seasonal markers, a calendar written in the sky that helps your people track time in a world without writing. Back in the sleeping area, you settle again between your family members. Your mate's breathing is slow and steady. Your oldest daughter murmurs in her sleep, perhaps dreaming of the young man from another band she met at the last gathering. Your son's hand clutches a small carved figure, a horse he made himself and carries everywhere. Your youngest curls against your side, seeking warmth and comfort. This is your world. These people, this cave, this moment of peace in an uncertain universe. Morning comes again, but this morning is different. You wake to excited voices. The hunting party has returned. They're exhausted, covered in dried blood and sweat, but triumphant. They've killed not one, but 2 reindeer, young males separated from the main herd. The meat from 2 reindeer will feed the band for weeks if properly preserved. More importantly, winter is coming and every successful hunt increases the chances of survival. The story of the hunt unfolds as the hunters eat and rest. They tracked the herd for 2 days, moving slowly, keeping downwind. When they identified potential targets, they spent hours maneuvering into position. The key moment came when the 2 young males stopped to fight over dominance, their antlers locked, attention focused on each other instead of potential threats. The hunters struck simultaneously, multiple spears finding their marks. 1 deer died quickly. The other ran, but was already mortally wounded. They tracked it by blood spoor until it collapsed. Field butchering began immediately. Every part of the animals would be used, but not everything could be carried at once. The hunters made multiple trips, carrying meat wrapped in the hides back to a temporary camp they established halfway between the kill site and home. They built drying racks and started the preservation process immediately. In this cold weather, meat can be dried quickly if cut thin and exposed to wind. They worked through the night, taking turns sleeping and tending the drying fires. Now the entire band mobilizes to retrieve the rest of the kill. Even the children help, carrying what they can. The journey to the temporary camp takes half a day, everyone moving at the pace of the slowest member. Along the way, they gather additional resources, never passing up an opportunity. A dead tree that will provide good firewood is marked for later retrieval. A new flint outcrop is discovered and sampled. Fresh tracks suggest the main reindeer herd has moved east, valuable information for future hunts. At the temporary camp, work begins immediately. The meat that has been drying is inspected, turned, moved closer or farther from the smoke as needed. Fresh meat is sliced thin for drying. Organs that won't preserve well are cooked and eaten immediately. The liver, kidneys, and heart are especially prized, full of nutrients that muscle meat lacks. The marrow is extracted from long bones, some eaten fresh, some saved for later. Every scrap of fat is carefully collected, rendered, and stored in cleaned intestines. Fat is precious, necessary for surviving winter, worth more than lean meat. The hides require immediate attention. If not processed quickly, they'll rot and be useless. The hair is left on for winter clothing, but all flesh and fat must be removed. Everyone who can hold a scraper helps with this work. It's tedious and smelly, but essential. Good winter clothing means the difference between comfortable survival and miserable struggle through the cold months. The antlers are examined carefully. They'll become tools, weapons, art objects. The long bones will be shaped into needles, awls, and points. The sinew will become thread and binding. The intestines will be cleaned and used as storage containers. This is the Ice Age economy. Every successful hunt is like a windfall that must be carefully managed. The meat must be preserved before it spoils. The materials must be processed while fresh. The entire band works together with practiced efficiency. Children learn by watching and gradually participating. Elders who can no longer hunt or gather hard supervise and teach. Everyone has a role. As the work continues, social dynamics play out. The successful hunters gain prestige, but are expected to be modest. Boasting would be considered bad luck and poor manners. The meat is distributed according to complex rules that ensure everyone gets fed, while acknowledging special contributions. The hunters get choice cuts, but not excessive amounts. Pregnant and nursing women get extra fat. The elderly get softer pieces that are easier to chew. Children get marrow, which they love, and which provides crucial nutrients for growing bodies. There's no formal leadership in the way modern people understand it. Decisions are made by consensus after discussion. The old woman who knows plants has authority in her domain. The best tracker's opinion carries weight about hunting. The most skilled toolmaker decides about stone procurement. It's a fluid system that recognizes expertise while preventing any individual from accumulating too much power. In a small band where everyone depends on everyone else, tyranny is impossible. A leader who makes poor decisions or treats people badly simply won't be followed. Conflicts do arise. Two families might disagree about camping locations. Young men might compete for the same woman's attention. Someone might feel they received an unfair share of resources. But conflicts must be resolved quickly and peacefully. The band can't afford to lose members to violence or splitting. Elaborate social mechanisms exist to defuse tensions. Joking relationships where certain people are expected to tease each other, deflecting aggression into humor. Ritualized competitions that let people establish dominance without serious fighting. Mediators, often elderly women, who help negotiate solutions that save face for everyone involved. By evening, most of the reindeer has been processed. The temporary camp is abandoned, everything useful carried back to the main cave. The band is exhausted but satisfied. This successful hunt has bought perhaps a month of security. The drying meat will last weeks if the weather stays cold and dry. The hides will become clothing and blankets. The bones and antlers will provide tools for months to come. Everyone sleeps well that night, bellies full, futures a little more secure. But the next morning brings new challenges. The weather is changing. The old woman who reads natural signs has been watching the sky, the behavior of birds, the way smoke rises from the fire. A storm is coming, she says. Not just rain, but early snow. The band needs to prepare. Firewood must be gathered in large quantities. The meat drying outside must be moved under cover. The cave entrance must be reinforced against wind and snow. Water containers must be filled before the spring potentially freezes. Everyone scatters to prepare. Wood gathering is exhausting work. Dead trees must be located, broken into manageable pieces using stone axes and wooden wedges, then carried back to the cave. A single person might make 20 trips in a day, each time carrying as much as they can manage. The wood is stacked carefully inside the cave, organized by size and dryness. Wet wood is placed where it can dry slowly. Kindling is kept in a special dry area. The best burning wood is reserved for the coldest parts of the night. The coming storm also means checking and reinforcing the band's equipment. Winter clothing is examined for tears or weak spots. Footwear is especially important. Your people make sophisticated boots from reindeer hide, lined with dry grass for insulation, sealed with rendered fat to be somewhat waterproof. But they wear out quickly with hard use. Everyone needs at least 2 pairs to survive winter, alternating them so they can dry completely between uses. Wet feet in winter mean frostbite, and frostbite can mean death. Food stores are reorganized with winter in mind. Cached supplies hidden in various locations around the territory are checked if possible. Your band maintains several emergency caches, buried or hidden in trees, containing dried meat, nuts, and tools. These are insurance against disaster. If the main cave becomes unusable, if the band is forced to flee, if hunting fails for an extended period, these caches could mean survival. But they must be checked regularly. Animals are clever about finding hidden food. Water can penetrate supposedly secure containers. A cache that's been compromised is worse than useless. It's a dangerous false hope. The storm arrives that night with a fury that surprises even the weather-wise old woman. Wind howls through the valley like a living thing. Snow falls so thick you can't see beyond the cave entrance. The temperature drops until, even with the fire blazing and everyone pressed together, cold seeps into bones. The band has survived many storms, but each one is a test. The windbreak across the cave entrance, made from branches and hides, strains against the gusts. If it fails, the cave will become uninhabitable, filled with snow and cold that no fire could overcome. Young men take turns through the night reinforcing the windbreak, adding supports, packing snow around the base to seal gaps. It's dangerous work. The wind is strong enough to knock a person down. The cold is intense enough that exposed skin begins to freeze in minutes, but it must be done. Everyone else contributes by keeping the fire fed, melting snow for water, making sure no one is showing signs of serious cold exposure. Fingers and toes are checked regularly. The early signs of frostbite are easy to miss but crucial to catch. Stories help pass the storm. Not the educational sagas or sacred myths, but personal stories. The time grandfather fought off 3 wolves with just a burning branch. The time 2 lovers eloped during a gathering, causing a feud between bands that lasted years. The time a child fell in the river and was rescued by a stranger who turned out to be from a band their family had been feuding with, ending the conflict. These stories reinforce social bonds, remind everyone that they've survived hardship before, create a sense of continuity with the past and hope for the future. The storm lasts 3 days, 3 days of wind and snow and cold that tests every aspect of the band's preparation. Firewood supplies dwindle alarmingly. Food must be rationed carefully. Water becomes an issue when going outside becomes too dangerous. Snow is melted for drinking, but this uses precious fuel. Sanitation becomes difficult when the designated waste area is inaccessible. Tempers fray. Children become restless. Adults snap at each other over trivial matters. But the band holds together. This is what thousands of years of evolution and cultural development have prepared them for. The ability to cooperate under extreme stress. The knowledge accumulated over generations about how to survive. The social bonds that make individual sacrifice for group survival not just possible, but instinctive. When the storm finally breaks, when weak sunlight finally penetrates the clouds and the wind drops to manageable levels, the band emerges intact. Tired, hungry, cold, but alive and together. The post-storm world is transformed. Snow covers everything to knee depth. Familiar landmarks are obscured. Animal tracks from before the storm have been erased. The band must relearn their territory, establish new paths, locate resources that might have been moved or buried. But there are opportunities too. The snow makes tracking easier. Animals concentrate around the few water sources that haven't frozen. If the cold continues, the river might freeze solid enough to cross safely, opening up hunting grounds on the far side that have been inaccessible since spring. This is the rhythm of Ice Age life. Periods of intense activity followed by forced inactivity. Times of abundance followed by scarcity. Moments of comfort followed by life-threatening challenges. Your people have adapted to this rhythm over thousands of generations. They've developed the physical capabilities, the technological knowledge, the social structures, and the psychological resilience to not just survive, but thrive in conditions that would defeat modern humans in days. A week after the storm, life has returned to its winter pattern. Hunting is limited to small game and opportunistic kills. Gathering is mostly forgotten until spring, though bark from certain trees provides emergency food. The band spends more time in the cave, working on long-term projects. This is the season for making and repairing, for teaching and learning, for strengthening the social bonds that will be tested by the hardships ahead. The toolmakers are creating a special set of implements for spring, when the band will travel to the annual gathering. This is the big social event of the year, when multiple bands meet at a traditional location to trade, share information, arrange marriages, and compete in various challenges. The tools being made aren't just functional, they're artistic. Spear points napped with unnecessary but beautiful symmetry. Handles carved with decorative patterns. These will be trade goods and status symbols, demonstrating the skill and prosperity of your band. One of the young women is working on something special. She's carving a figure from a piece of antler, a woman with exaggerated sexual characteristics. These Venus figurines, as future archaeologists will call them, are common across Ice Age Europe. But their meaning is debated even within your band. Are they fertility charms, goddess images, teaching tools for midwives, pornography, art for art's sake? The young woman won't say why she's making it, just smiles mysteriously when asked. Some knowledge is personal, not meant to be shared. Your son is learning to make music. One of the hunters is teaching him to play a simple flute. It's frustrating work. His fingers are still small and struggle to cover the holes properly. The notes come out squeaky and off-pitch. But he persists, practicing until his lips are numb, gradually improving. Music is important enough that the band encourages his efforts despite the annoying noise. Musicians are valued. They provide entertainment, maintain oral traditions, facilitate ceremonies, and create the rhythms that coordinate group activities. Your eldest daughter is undergoing a different kind of education. She's reached the age where she needs to understand the mysteries of womanhood. The older women take her aside for private conversations about menstruation, pregnancy, childbirth. This knowledge is sacred and secret, passed from woman to woman across generations. Men have their own mysteries, their own sacred knowledge, but the women's mysteries are considered more powerful because they involve the creation of life itself. She's taught practical things like which plants help with menstrual cramps, how to track her cycle, how to recognize early signs of pregnancy. But she's also taught spiritual things, the proper rituals to perform during menstruation, the taboos that must be observed, the prayers that ensure healthy children. This knowledge marks her transition from child to adult. Soon she'll be considered marriageable, though she won't be pressured to partner immediately. Your band understands that girls who wait until their late teens to have children are more likely to survive childbirth. The question of who she'll eventually partner with is already being discussed quietly among the adults. In a band this small, options are limited. Her first cousins are off-limits. The taboo against close inbreeding is strong. That leaves only a few young men of appropriate age in your band. More likely, she'll partner with someone from another band, met at a gathering or through deliberate arrangement. These interband marriages are crucial for maintaining genetic diversity and political alliances. But that's future concern. For now, winter continues its grip on the land. Some days are almost pleasant, weak sun warming the cave entrance, allowing for outside activities. Other days are brutal, wind and snow keeping everyone huddled inside. The food supplies dwindle steadily despite careful rationing. The stored fat is almost gone. The dried meat is tough and tasteless after weeks of storage. Everyone is losing weight, their bodies consuming themselves to stay warm. This is the hungry time, when winter seems endless and spring impossibly distant. This is when the weakest die, the elderly who refuse food so younger people can eat, infants whose mothers can't produce enough milk, anyone whose immune system can't fight off the respiratory infections that spread through the confined space. Your band has been lucky this winter. only one death. An old man who simply didn't wake up one morning. His body was wrapped in hides and placed in a small cave up the cliff, covered with stones to protect it from scavengers. When the ground thaws, he'll be properly buried with the ceremonies due to one who lived long and died peacefully. But death is always close. A young mother develops a cough that becomes worse despite treatment with medicinal plants. Her breathing becomes labored. Fever makes her delirious. The band's healer, a middle-aged man who learned plant medicine from his grandmother, does what he can. Teas made from willow bark to reduce fever. Smoke from burning herbs to ease breathing. Prayers and rituals to appease whatever spirits might be causing the illness. Sometimes these treatments work. Sometimes they don't. This time, after days of struggle, the fever breaks. The young woman survives, weak but improving. The band collectively exhales relief. These close calls remind everyone how precarious life is, how quickly things can go from normal to desperate, how much everyone depends on everyone else. In a band this small, every person matters. Every death diminishes the group's chances of survival. Every birth brings hope for the future, but also another mouth to feed. It's a constant balance between resources and population, between risk and safety, between individual desires and group needs. As winter deepens, the band develops a different rhythm. The frantic activity of autumn preparation gives way to careful conservation of energy. People move less, talk less, sleep more. This isn't laziness, it's adaptation. Your bodies are switching into a kind of partial hibernation. Metabolism's slowing to preserve calories. Even the children play less vigorously, their usual endless energy subdued by cold and limited food. But life doesn't stop. It can't. Equipment still needs maintenance. The fire still needs feeding. Water still needs collecting. And, critically, morale needs maintaining. This is when the band's storyteller becomes most important. The old woman who usually leads gathering expeditions transforms into the keeper of culture when winter traps everyone inside. She knows hundreds of stories, thousands of songs, the entire oral history of not just your band, but neighboring groups going back generations beyond memory. Tonight, she tells the story of the long winter, a time in the ancestors' memory when snow fell for 3 years straight. How the people survived by learning to hunt beneath the ice, following seals through breathing holes. How they discovered that certain lichens growing on rocks could be eaten when everything else was gone. How they learned to build shelters from snow itself, warmer than caves in the deep cold. Whether the story is literally true doesn't matter. It encodes survival information, cultural values, and, most importantly, hope. If the ancestors survived the long winter, your band can survive this one. Your mate has been quiet lately, and you know why. The subtle signs are there for those who know how to read them. A certain fullness to the breasts, a particular quality to the skin, the way certain foods suddenly seem repulsive. Another pregnancy. This will be your 4th living child if all goes well. You've lost 2 others, one to fever as an infant, another to a fall from rocks at age 3. Such losses are common, expected even, but the pain never lessens. The timing could be better. Late winter pregnancy means giving birth in autumn, when the band needs to be mobile for hunting and gathering. It means morning sickness during spring travels. It means carrying extra weight during summer's work. But children come when they come. Your band knows plants that can prevent or end pregnancies, but they're dangerous, sometimes killing the mother along with the child. Most women choose to accept what comes unless circumstances are truly desperate. The pregnancy also means recalculating resources. Another mouth to feed next winter, another person to keep warm, but also another pair of hands in a few years, another mind to learn and remember crucial information, another link in the chain connecting past to future. Children are simultaneously burden and blessing, risk and investment. The band will adjust, as it always does. Nursing mothers get extra food. Pregnant women are excused from the most strenuous work. Everyone understands that the band's future literally depends on successful reproduction. Days blur together in the winter cave. Wake, tend fire, eat what little is available, work on endless tasks, tell stories, sleep. The sameness would drive modern people to madness, but your band has developed ways to cope. They create artificial variety. Today, everyone works on their own projects. Tomorrow is communal toolmaking. The day after is music day, when everyone who can play or sing performs. Small celebrations mark tiny achievements. A child successfully starting their first fire. A particularly beautiful tool completed. The first bird song suggesting spring might be approaching. Relationships deepen during these confined months. The young couple who have been flirting since autumn finally announce their intention to partner. There's no formal marriage ceremony as modern people would understand it, but there are traditions. The man must demonstrate his ability to provide by successful hunting. The woman must show her knowledge of essential skills. Both families must agree, considering not just the couple's compatibility, but the broader implications for band politics and genetics. The couple begins sharing a sleeping space, a public declaration of their partnership. They'll truly become a unit at the spring gathering, where their union will be recognized by other bands. This external recognition matters. It means their children will be accepted as legitimate members of not just your band, but the broader tribal network. It means they can claim resources and support from extended kin groups. It means their partnership has social weight beyond personal preference. But not all relationships are proceeding smoothly. Two brothers have been feuding over a woman who seems to enjoy the attention more than she actually favors either suitor. The tension is affecting everyone, making the confined space feel even smaller. The band's elders intervene, not with authority they don't possess, but with subtle social pressure. Stories are told about feuds that destroyed bands. The woman is gently encouraged to make a choice or make clear she chooses neither. The brothers are reminded that their conflict threatens everyone's survival. Eventually, a resolution emerges. The woman chooses neither brother, announcing her intention to wait until the spring gathering where she'll have more options. The brothers, faced with the prospect of continuing their feud over nothing, reconcile. It's not a perfect solution, but it's enough to restore peace. This is how your band handles most conflicts, through social pressure, public opinion, and face-saving compromises. Violent confrontation is almost unknown within the band, though it certainly happens between bands. The first real sign of spring comes not from weather, but from biology. The pregnant wolf dog, descended from the first wolves your band's ancestors tamed, gives birth to 6 puppies. The cave fills with new sounds, tiny whimpers, and the mother's protective growls. The puppies are carefully monitored. Not all will survive, and not all that survive will stay with the band. Some will be traded to other groups. One or two might return to the wild, their wolf genes too strong for domestication. But some will become the next generation of hunting companions and camp guardians. Children are fascinated by the puppies, but must be taught proper behavior. These aren't pets in the modern sense. They're working animals that happen to live alongside humans. They must learn their place in the band's hierarchy. They must bond with humans, but also maintain enough independence to be useful. It's a delicate balance that your people have been refining for generations. Too much familiarity, and the dogs become useless parasites. Too little, and they revert to wildness. Then, one morning, everything changes. The old woman wakes everyone with excitement. She's heard something no one else has noticed yet. Running water. Somewhere beneath the snow, ice is melting. Winter's grip is loosening. It might be weeks before true spring arrives, but the process has begun. The band's energy shifts immediately. Plans that have been theoretical all winter suddenly become urgent. Tools that need finishing. Clothes that need repairing. Decisions about where to spend spring and summer. Your band doesn't stay in one place year-round. The cave is a winter refuge, chosen for its protection from weather and defensibility against predators. But staying in one place too long depletes local resources. The plants get overharvested. The game animals learn to avoid the area. Waste accumulates despite careful management. So your people follow an annual round, moving between established camps according to seasonal resource availability. Spring camp is near the river where fish run upstream to spawn. Summer camp is in the high meadows where berries grow thick and deer graze. Autumn camp is near the nut groves and the valleys where animals gather before winter. Each location has been used for generations. Each has accumulated improvements like stone-lined hearths, storage pits, and windbreaks. Moving between them isn't random wandering, but systematic exploitation of varied ecosystems. But first comes the spring gathering. This is the social highlight of the year, when 5 or 6 bands meet at a traditional location. The gathering serves multiple crucial functions. Trade, of course. Your band's high-quality flint for another's superior hides. Information exchange about hunting grounds, resource locations, and environmental changes. Arranged marriages to maintain genetic diversity and political alliances. Competitions that establish status and settle disputes. Ceremonies that maintain cultural unity across scattered populations. Preparation intensifies as weather improves. Everyone needs new clothes for display, not just functional but beautiful, decorated with beads, shells, and painted designs. These aren't primitive people unconcerned with appearance. They are sophisticated social beings who understand that presentation matters. The young woman who refused the 2 brothers spends days perfecting her outfit, knowing she'll be evaluated by potential partners from other bands. The successful hunters prepare their best weapons for the competitive displays. The toolmakers finish their finest work for trading. The journey to the gathering takes 5 days. The entire band travels together, even the elderly and infants. It's risky, leaving the secure cave, carrying everything important, exposed to weather and predators. But it's necessary. The band that doesn't attend gatherings becomes isolated, loses access to mates and resources, eventually dies out. So everyone who can walk does. Those who can't are carried. The dogs help transport heavy loads on drag poles. an innovation that has revolutionized mobility. The route is well known, used for generations, marked by subtle signs that outsiders wouldn't recognize. A particular rock formation, a tree bent into an unusual shape, paintings on cliff faces showing direction and distance. Your people navigate by landscape memory, holding mental maps of territories covering thousands of square miles. Every prominent feature has a name, usually tied to a story that helps remember its location and significance. Camp is made each night with practiced efficiency. Not the permanent camps with their improvements, but temporary shelters that provide basic protection. Hide tents for families with small children. Windbreaks for others. The unmarried young men often sleep in the open, showing off their toughness. Fires are kept burning all night, both for warmth and to discourage predators. Guards are posted, usually young adults eager to prove their responsibility. On the third day, you encounter another band also traveling to the gathering. There's a moment of tension as the groups assess each other. But then recognition. It's a band your group has traded with for years. Greetings are exchanged, news shared. They've had a hard winter, losing 3 members to illness. But they've also had success, discovering a new source of high-quality ochre that they'll trade at the gathering. The bands travel together for safety and companionship. The gathering site is a large valley with a river running through it, surrounded by forests and meadows. When you arrive, 2 bands are already there, with more expected over the coming days. Each band establishes its camp in traditional locations, close enough for easy interaction but far enough to maintain some privacy. The dogs from different bands eye each other warily, establishing their own hierarchies through posturing and occasional fights. The first night is devoted to formal greetings and gift exchanges. Leaders, though that term is too strong for the informal authority they possess, meet to discuss serious matters: territorial disputes, resource-sharing agreements, responses to environmental changes. A band from the far north reports that the ice is advancing again, pushing them from traditional hunting grounds. A band from the south says the forests are expanding, creating new opportunities but also new challenges as familiar grassland animals disappear. Your band presents its gifts, carefully chosen to demonstrate prosperity and capability. Beautiful tools that show technical skill. Preserved foods that prove successful hunting and gathering. Ornaments that display artistic ability. The gifts aren't just generosity. They're political statements, establishing your band's status and creditworthiness for future exchanges. A band that gives poor gifts loses respect and negotiating power. The second day brings competitions. Young men throw spears for distance and accuracy. Women demonstrate speed and skill at hide processing. Children compete in fire-starting races. These aren't just games. They're ways of assessing potential marriage partners, establishing reputations, and settling disputes without violence. A young man who consistently wins spear-throwing competitions gains status that translates into better marriage prospects and more influence in group decisions. Your eldest daughter watches the competitions with interest. Several young men from other bands have been making overtures, bringing small gifts, engaging her in conversation. She's cautious but clearly pleased by the attention. You and your mate observe carefully, evaluating the suitors not just as individuals, but as connections to their bands. A marriage alliance with the northern band might give access to their superior hunting grounds. An alliance with the southern band could mean better plant resources. But your daughter has her own preferences. She's drawn to a young man known for his music rather than his hunting prowess. He plays the flute beautifully and knows hundreds of songs. His band is neither rich nor powerful, but he makes her laugh. You remember your own courtship, how you chose your mate for reasons that had little to do with practical calculations. The heart wants what it wants, even in the Ice Age. Trading begins on the third day. This isn't casual bartering, but serious negotiation with established protocols. Your band's master toolmaker has brought 20 superior stone blades, each representing hours of skilled work. He trades them for things the band needs, a bundle of quality sinew for binding, several prepared hides, a collection of shells that will become ornaments. But he also trades for curiosities, a strange stone that might have tool-making potential, a plant no one recognizes that could be medicinal or nutritional. Information is traded as freely as goods. A woman from the eastern bands describes a new technique for preserving meat using salt from a dried lake bed. A man from the west tells of a valley where horses gather in autumn, easy hunting for those who know the approach routes. Your band shares the location of the ochre deposit they found, keeping secret only the richest veins. This information sharing is crucial for everyone's survival. A technique developed by one band can spread across the entire network within a year. Medical knowledge is particularly valuable. The Eastern Band has a healer who knows how to set broken bones so they heal straight. She teaches the technique to anyone willing to learn, understanding that spreading this knowledge means her own band members might receive help if injured far from home. Your band's expertise with childbirth, developed by generations of successful midwives, is shared with a young woman from another band who wants to learn. This medical exchange has immediate benefits when a child from the northern band develops a severe allergic reaction to something they ate. Your band's healer recognizes the symptoms and knows the treatment, saving the child's life and creating a debt of gratitude that will last generations. Evenings at the gathering are magical. With over 100 people present, the social energy is intense. Multiple fires burn, each surrounded by people talking, laughing, arguing. Musicians from different bands collaborate, creating new songs by combining their traditions. Dancers perform, each band showcasing their distinctive styles. Stories are told that no single band has heard complete, epics that require multiple narrators to tell properly. One night, the spiritual leaders from each band collaborate on a major ceremony. This isn't casual entertainment, but a serious ritual aimed at ensuring good hunting, healthy children, and peaceful relations between bands. Everyone participates, painting their bodies with ochre and charcoal in traditional patterns. Drums made from hollow logs and stretched hides create rhythms that seem to sync with heartbeats. Dancers wearing antler headdresses recreate the movements of deer. A shaman enters a trance state, speaking in the voices of animal spirits, delivering messages that will be interpreted and debated for months. The ceremony continues until dawn, participants dropping out as exhaustion overtakes them, others joining in, maintaining the energy. Your youngest child, experiencing their first gathering, watches with wide eyes, absorbing images and sounds that will stay with them forever. This is how culture perpetuates itself, not through formal education, but through powerful shared experiences that encode values and beliefs at levels deeper than conscious thought. Romance blooms throughout the gathering. Your daughter and the musical young man spend increasing time together, always properly chaperoned, but clearly developing strong feelings. Other couples form, some expected, others surprising. A widow from your band catches the attention of a widower from another group, their shared experience of loss creating unexpected connection. Two young men from different bands discover they prefer each other's company to that of women, a relationship that's accepted though unlikely to produce children who might carry on family lines. Not all romantic pursuits succeed. A young man from your band pursues a woman who clearly isn't interested, leading to awkward moments and eventual intervention by elders who explain that persistence isn't always attractive. A woman from another band creates drama by encouraging multiple suitors simultaneously, enjoying the attention but creating tensions that threaten the gathering's peaceful atmosphere. These failed courtships are learning experiences, teaching young people the complex social rules governing romantic relationships. By the fifth day, the gathering's intensity begins to wear on everyone. So many people in close proximity creates tensions. Children fight over toys. Adults argue over trades that seem unfair in retrospect. The accumulated waste from 100 people starts creating sanitation problems. Food supplies run low as the local area can't support this population density for long. It's time for the gathering to end before conflicts escalate and relationships are damaged. But first, major decisions must be made. Your daughter announces her intention to partner with the young musician. It's not unexpected, but still emotional. She'll leave with his band, likely not seeing your family again until next year's gathering. Your mate cries, even knowing this is normal and necessary. Your daughter is excited but also frightened, preparing to leave everything familiar for a life with strangers who will become family. The northern band, struggling with advancing ice, negotiates permission to hunt in territories traditionally belonging to other bands. It's agreed, with the understanding that they'll share any large kills and provide information about changing conditions in the north. The southern band offers to take in an orphaned child from your band, having recently lost a child of similar age and wanting to fill that emotional void. These negotiations aren't just practical, but deeply emotional, involving the fundamental issues of survival, territory, and family. On the final night, there's one last ceremony. This one is for the new couples, not quite a marriage ceremony, but a public recognition of new partnerships. Your daughter and her musician stand with 4 other couples as elders from various bands, speak about the responsibilities of partnership, the importance of these alliances for maintaining connections between groups, the hope that these unions will produce children to carry traditions forward. You watch your daughter, trying to memorize her face, knowing how much can change in a year. She might be pregnant when you see her next. She might have experienced hardships that change her. She might discover that romantic love isn't enough to overcome the challenges of daily survival with a partner she barely knows. Or she might thrive, finding happiness and purpose in her new life. There's no way to know, no way to protect her from life's uncertainties. The gathering ends with formal farewells and promises to meet again next year. Bands leave at different times, heading in different directions. Your band, now missing your daughter, but having gained the orphaned child the southern band couldn't take, begins the journey to spring camp. Everyone is exhausted from the intensity of social interaction. Introverts in the group are particularly drained, having had no privacy or quiet for days. The journey to spring camp is quieter than usual, everyone processing the experiences and information from the gathering. Spring camp is a revelation after the winter cave. Located on the terraces above the river, it provides access to aquatic resources just as they become most abundant. The salmon run hasn't started yet, but other fish are active in the warming water. Freshwater mussels can be gathered from shallow pools. Water plants are sending up tender shoots that provide the first fresh vegetables your band has eaten in months. Everyone's mood improves with improved nutrition and warmer weather. The established camp shows signs of other bands' recent use, which is expected and acceptable. The fire pits have been maintained. The drying racks are in good repair. Someone even left a small pile of good flint as a gift for whoever came next. Your band will do the same when they leave, maintaining the reciprocal relationships that ensure everyone has access to resources when needed. Work at spring camp follows familiar patterns. Fish weirs need repairing after winter ice damage. Nets made from plant fibers need checking and mending. Smoking racks for preserving fish need construction. Everyone knows their roles from years of experience. The very young and very old work on tasks that can be done sitting. Adults handle the heavy labor. Adolescents learn by helping, gradually taking on more responsibility. Your mate's pregnancy is progressing normally. Morning sickness has passed, replaced by the intense hunger of growing another human. The band ensures pregnant women get extra food, especially the fatty fish that seem to help babies develop properly. The other women share advice, remedies for various discomforts, stories of their own pregnancies. This collective support is crucial in a world without professional medical care. The orphaned child is adjusting to your band. She's quiet, still grieving her lost family, but beginning to bond with other children. Your youngest has taken her under their wing, sharing toys and including her in games. Children are remarkably resilient, adapting to new situations faster than adults. Within a moon's cycle, she'll be fully integrated, another daughter to raise and teach and worry about. Days at spring camp develop their own rhythm. Early morning fishing when the fish are most active. Midday, processing the catch. Smoking fish for preservation. Extracting oil from the fatty species. Afternoon, gathering of plants and shellfish. Evening, tool maintenance and social time. The schedule is dictated by nature's rhythms, not human preference. Fish must be processed quickly before spoiling. Plants must be gathered at the right stage of growth. Everything is time-sensitive. Your son, now 14 winters old, is preparing for his initiation into adulthood. This involves vision quests, solo survival tests, and learning sacred knowledge that only adult men are allowed to know. He's nervous but eager, tired of being treated as a child when he already contributes significantly to the band's survival. The initiation will happen at summer camp, where specific ceremonial sites have been used for this purpose since ancient times. The salmon run begins with scouts, individual fish that arrive weeks before the main run. But their presence signals that preparation must intensify. When the main run arrives, the band will work from dawn to dusk for days, processing hundreds of fish that will provide protein for months. It's exhausting work, but also celebration. The salmon run means survival, abundance after winter's scarcity. More bands arrive as the run approaches, each taking traditional positions along the river. There's potential for conflict over the best fishing spots, but established protocols usually prevent problems. Bands that have used specific sites for generations have priority. Newcomers must negotiate access or accept less productive locations. Your band's site is excellent, inherited from ancestors who chose well and defended their claim over centuries. The main run arrives like thunder. The river turns dark with fish bodies, so many that they seem like a single organism moving upstream. Everyone works frantically. Men spear fish or guide them into weirs. Women and children club captured fish and begin processing. Even the dogs help, catching fish that escape the weirs. For 3 days the band barely sleeps, processing fish as fast as they can catch them. The preserved salmon will provide food for months, but more importantly, it provides trade goods. Bands from areas without good fishing will trade almost anything for reliable protein. Your band's reputation for high-quality smoked salmon gives them leverage in negotiations. Some of this salmon will travel hundreds of miles, traded from band to band, until it reaches groups that have never seen the ocean. After the intensity of the salmon run, life settles into a more sustainable pace. Summer camp in the high meadows provides different resources. Berries are beginning to ripen. Medicinal plants are at their peak potency. Large game animals are fat and healthy from summer grazing. It's the easiest season for survival, but also the time when next winter's survival is determined. Every successful hunt, every basket of berries preserved, every hide properly prepared increases the chances of surviving the next cold season. Your son's initiation ceremony is profound. He spends 3 days alone in the wilderness with minimal equipment, testing his survival skills and seeking visions that will guide his adult life. He returns thin and exhausted, but transformed. The sacred knowledge he's learned, the genealogies and territories and spiritual secrets, marks him as a full member of adult society. He has a new name now, earned through his vision, replacing his childhood name. Your mate gives birth as autumn approaches. It's a difficult labor, lasting through a full night and into the next day. The midwives are concerned but experienced. They know techniques passed down through generations, positions that help the baby move, herbs that strengthen contractions, massages that ease pain. Finally, as dawn breaks, a healthy daughter is born. She's small but strong, crying lustily, nursing immediately. Your mate is exhausted but triumphant. Another successful generation. The band celebrates the birth with modest ceremony. Resources can't be wasted on elaborate festivities, but the symbolic recognition matters. The baby is presented to the spirits of the land, introduced to the forces that will shape her life. Ochre is dabbed on her forehead, a protection against evil. Her umbilical cord is buried in a special place, tying her to this territory forever. She belongs now, not just to your family, but to the band, the land, the continuous chain of existence stretching back to the beginning of time. Autumn means returning to the nut groves and preparing for winter. The cycle continues as it has for countless generations. Gathering, processing, storing, teaching children what their parents taught them, maintaining tools and relationships and traditions. Your eldest daughter visits with her new band during the autumn hunt. She's pregnant, glowing with health and happiness. Her musician husband has proven surprisingly good at providing, his musical skills less important than his dedication to their partnership. The year is ending where it began, preparing for winter in the cave that has sheltered your band for generations. But you're different now. Older, more experienced, with new scars and new wisdom. Your family has changed. A daughter gone, a new baby arrived, an orphaned child adopted. The band has evolved. Relationships shifted. Knowledge accumulated, traditions maintained and modified. Standing at the cave entrance as the first snow begins to fall, you think about the year past and the year to come. The challenges that were overcome and those that lie ahead. The salmon successfully preserved, the hunt that failed, the child who died from an infected wound, the baby successfully born. Life is hard, harder than your descendants 40,000 years in the future could imagine. But it's also rich with meaning, purpose, connection to land and people and traditions that stretch back into deep time. You are not primitive. You are not savage. You are human, fully human, with complex thoughts and deep emotions and sophisticated culture. Your technology might seem simple to future peoples, but it represents thousands of years of accumulated knowledge. Your society might seem basic, but it maintains stable populations through incredibly challenging conditions. Your beliefs might seem superstitious, but they encode practical wisdom and provide psychological comfort in an uncertain world. The fire crackles in the cave behind you. Your family prepares for sleep. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, hunting to be done, tools to be made, children to be taught, traditions to be maintained. But tonight there is warmth and safety and the comfort of belonging. You are part of something larger than yourself. A band, a tribe, a species that will outlast ice ages and spread across the planet. You don't know this, can't imagine the future that your descendants will create. But you are laying the foundation, one day at a time, one generation at a time, one small band of humans refusing to give up in a harsh but beautiful world.